All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me touching on the top prop bets for this Flex Friday on PrizePicks. Now, I do want to start with showing you guys the EV board that we are currently getting, just so you guys, obviously, if you guys want to just roll with the EV bets that we are getting, by all means, that's a great strategy to go with. We have a couple of pretty good NFL props right now. I would say these first ones right here, like Jones for over tackles and assists, 8.5 is looking pretty good. Witherspoon for under 4.5 tackles and assists. Tucker Kraft for over 2.5 receptions is seemingly a good one. Shakir for over 2.5 receptions. I don't mind the idea of that one as well. Devin Singletary over 16.5 rushing attempts. Also kind of a good one. We're starting to get too thin though. Going up to PGA, these two props I'm perfectly fine with. This course should be playing a little bit easier today. We look at the weather for you guys. Like weather does typically play a big factor. Yesterday the winds were getting up to 18 mile per hour. It honestly seemed like more than that. If the max wind is going to be 16 mile per hour winds, it should be a little bit easier to score on. Those two I actually don't like the most in terms of PGA props. For me, the two I'd actually want to roll with today is going to be these two. Brian Harman, less than 68.5 strokes. Okay, he's someone that yesterday did not make that many putts. You just give him one more made putt and he's getting the under. And then Corey Connors did have a pretty good round one. He is someone that gets a more favorable tee time today. I do expect him to have a good day. And if we look at those two prop bets, we're seeing that Underdog currently has it set at 68. I would agree that that should be the prop line for those two props. Now we move on into the discrepancies, and I want to call something out here, and this is something that I'll probably take a peek at right after this, guys, is that right now with tennis, there are two prop bets that are currently being pulled in differently for Taro Daniel and then Jack Draper. I don't know their name. Because you'll see on Underdog, these are set for Sunday, whereas on PrizePicks, those two are set for today. So I'm very curious as to like why there's a difference there. But I'll have to take a peek at that today, see what's going on there, how to adjust that. But other than that, we are getting a couple of decent edges, Mertans for under total games, pretty decent edge there on PrizePicks at least. The concentration for today's video is going to be looking at PrizePicks, guys. Just again, Flex Friday, let's take advantage of the opportunity that presents. So with that, let's go and just take a peek at some NHL props. Yeah, NHL wise, guys, we are getting like one good one here. And I figured out a much easier way to explain this. Like prop lines like these are definitely being favorited as pushes, but you see the 57 to 58% edge right there. I would look at it this way. It's favored to be a push. Okay. Let's put it that way. But if it had to choose between being the over or the under, it would be about a 7.89% chance greater for the under to hit than the over. I think that's the best way to explain that to you guys. But after that, not getting that many good NHL props as well. So I think we're going to have to do a deep dive into the NBA. I think I'm going to be fine with that. But first, let's take a peek at college basketball. In college basketball, we currently aren't getting that many good fantasy score props. Again, it happened yesterday where we got one pretty darn awesome fantasy score prop where I ended up calling it out in the Discord chat simply because it was really good. I know you guys can't really see it, screenshot, whatever, but the Underdog line was like 3.1 higher than the PrizePicks line, and the under was favored by 55% for that to hit. And so that one ended up hitting pretty easily, which was nice. That's just something that I'm surprised by how frequently it's happening between PrizePicks and Underdog. Again, though, college basketball is more difficult to predict. One of the best college basketball props in yesterday's video at the start of the day was Wheeler for under his fantasy score. He crushed the over. And what was unfortunate about that is like the data updated throughout the day. This was no longer a great under bet. And this was one where I think I'm pretty sure Underdog had this set like 29.5 as well. So then I was like, dang, that sucks. It happens. We know that data is going to update throughout the day. The sportsbook lines are going to update throughout the day, especially with college basketball where it's, an interesting day. And I will say, I'm so sick of Nick Claxton. This is another one that by lineup lock, the over 26.5 for points, rebounds, and assists, I think was at like minus 140 or so. Like it was a pretty good edge on paper, and he didn't get the over. Honestly, I might be done with Nick Claxton for quite some time. And what's more frustrating about that is I was in between giving you guys Claxton or Brooke Lopez yesterday for that slip, and Brooke Lopez crushed, but all in all, it is what it is. But that was my long-winded way of saying I hope we get some more fantasy score prop bets maybe by the time I finish this video. But let's go ahead and get into NBA. So the first game on the NBA slate is going to be the Pistons versus the Rockets. 7-point spread, 226 or so, 227 or so for the over and under. Looking at it for the Pistons, guys, if Isaiah Stewart does play, it's going to mean that Duren is going to be someone we don't like as much. We also see that Bogdanovich is currently a game time decision as well. If he were to sit, that would make this slate much more difficult. Like Alec Burks, I would assume would get more minutes, and he's been someone that's been pretty productive on limited minutes as is. And then Cade Cunningham we know is out. Now, one player that we've been going in on a decent amount over the last 2 days in which they've had games was Jaden Ivey, and now he's gotten his prop lines extremely high. So I don't know if we exactly need to be touching Jaden Ivey too much, but I do think it's important to look at it. And you guys will see, yeah, the data is telling us to bet the under, and I would probably agree with that, honestly. Now it's gotten too high. They were fast to respond to this, whereas in other situations they hadn't adjusted as fast. It's unfortunate that happened. Do I still think that Jaden Ivey can go off? I do, okay, but it's definitely much more thin, and maybe there's some bias behind it because like we were on it at such a low number the past 2 slates, but I do worry about the matchup. Now, I do want to call his per 36 production with Cade Cunningham off the court. It is 21.2 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. So all in all, this line could still be too low, but if you were trying to do a prop bet for Jaden Ivey, to me, the one that would make the most sense would be just to roll with points. Again, that feels a little bit too thin. From there's not much that I love. And just for what it's worth, why I like Jaden Ivey is because he has the highest usage rate with Cade Cunningham off the court. I think that's a big thing. But after that, there's not much here for Detroit that I love or that I even really think is noteworthy, especially with it looking like both Bogdanovich and Isaiah Stewart are going to be active. For me, that seems to be a stay away for Jalen Duren as well. Now, I don't mind the rebounds and assists prop for the over, but since the data is telling us to bet the under, that's a stay away for me. Let's go ahead and move on into Houston. For Houston, I do want to call it that Cam Whitmore in his last game had 33 minutes, and really it's not too shocking. Again, given kind of the injury report, Tari Eason and Dylan Brooks have been out, and he has been someone that has been playing well on a point per minute basis, which to me is a little bit unfortunate because to me that makes Jabari Smith a little bit more difficult to be on, and really everyone else for Houston, because we can't predict the minutes as accurately. So for me, Houston kind of feels like a stay away. So jumping into the Hawks versus the Pacers, this is probably going to be a game in which we should be targeting in some capacity. 5.5 point spread like that, 252 for the over and under. For the Pacers, they're going to be without Halliburton. Okay, that is a big piece of news. If Aaron Nesmith sits as well, or Jalen Smith sits as well, who Jalen Smith's out in the last game, Isaiah Jackson had a pretty good game. Those are some big pieces of injury news. But all in all, I think we will know who to target. Looking at the Hawks, Trae Young is a current game time decision. Clint Capella currently a game time decision. Now we'll take a peek here, guys. It seems like Trae Young is going to play. Clint Capella is currently projected to start as well, so might not be that newsworthy. And kind of the weird thing about the Pacers, guys, is that with Halliburton out, no one's really appealing in the sense that last game we saw no one really got a ton of minutes. Were they good in their limited minutes? Yes, but like TJ McConnell, 22 minutes. He went off in those 22 minutes, but like we can't trust 22 minutes. Bruce Brown had himself a pretty good game on 27 minutes. Again, can't really trust that. Benedict Mathurin is someone that I feel like is the one player we can trust the most. Had only 28 minutes in that game. Not the best day shooting, but all in all, still had a pretty good game, was able to get to the free throw line. He is the one person that I think we want to be on the most. The data kind of suggests that as well. He gets the most minutes with Halliburton off the court, averages 24 points per 36, 5.1 rebounds per 36, 2.8 assists per 36 with him off the court, has the highest usage rate on the team with him off the court as well. So he's the one player that I think we want to go in on the most. But all in all, we're going to see right now they're not giving us any props for Mathurin, probably because of that. They don't know how to properly value him right now as it sits, especially with Naismith potentially sitting and then also Jalen Smith as well. So for me, that's the spot we want to attack. The part of the issue is that he's only projected, or part of the issue is that he only had 28 minutes in the last game. We'd have to see what his projected minutes are going to be for this game. Let's go ahead and get into Atlanta. I personally thought we were getting some pretty good edges for the Atlanta players, and the data kind of agrees. So, again, if you guys play NBA DFS, be on the Occupy Fantasy live stream. It goes live basically an hour and 15 minutes before lineup lock for each slate. I'm on the live stream about 4 times a week. On the last slate, we were telling you guys to jam in Jalen Johnson. And I would argue he's going to be a player that I want people to jam in again. Over the last 2 games, he's gotten 40 plus minutes. Now, I don't think we can bank on him getting 40 plus minutes again. Part of the reason as to why he was appealing in the last game was the fact that Anika was out. for Atlanta. But if Clint Capella sits, that's going to make him more appealing as well. But you're also still without Hunter, so he is still appealing. Now, do I think he's going to get that many minutes again? Probably not. But at 29.5 for his points, rebounds, and assists in this good matchup, in this pace-up matchup, in a high-scoring game, to me, this is still way too low. Now, the one concern I could see people having as well, look at the last time they played the Pacers. That was a great spot. He only had 23 PRA. And I get that. That game was a blowout, though. Like, Vegas thinks this is going to be a 5-point spread. And I know Vegas was completely wrong yesterday on a lot of the games. I mean, holy crap. Yesterday was crazy, was it not? 2 games were like, well, between the first 2, I don't know. I think it was all 3. The first 3 games yesterday, it was a minimum of 20 points going into half was the spread. Obviously, the Bucks were blowing out the Celtics by like 40. The Thunder were blowing out Portland by like 50. It was a crazy day yesterday. So, yeah, Vegas can be wrong here and there. But all in all, 5.5 points, high total game. I think Jalen Johnson's going to have a good game. Is he a little bit less appealing today than he has been? Sure. But at the same time, I still think he's going to have a good game. And it's tough to put the genie back in the bottle. Like, you kind of have to just play him at this point if you are Atlanta. And for what it's worth, he is projected to get 34 minutes. So I like that. If he's going to get those minutes, we can see the data does like him to get the over slightly for the most part. So again, maybe a little bit too thin for EV betting and whatnot. But I don't mind it. DeJounte Murray, guys. Yes, we know that Trae Young most likely going to play. I get that. But all in all, I think Murray's in a pretty good spot in this game as well. Last game against the Pacers had 30 points in that game. Only 2 assists, only 1 rebounds in that game. But given that line, he still would have had the over barely. Again, that game was a blowout. He only played 34 minutes in that game. He's been playing a little bit more in these games. He's someone I don't mind. The shot attempts have been up there, right? We're getting someone that's shooting the basketball about 19 times per game and getting a decent amount of free throw attempts and also threes up as well. All in all, we know this is going to be points dependent for DeJounte Murray for the most part. All in all, it's a good matchup. I like these two simply because we can stack this game a little bit depending on if we get some math room props. Let's go ahead and move on into the next game. I know I probably spent a little bit too much time on that game, but moving on to the next game, it's the Kings versus the Pacers. About a 0-point spread, which is strange. Pretty high scoring game as well, 241. We know that the Sixers are going to be without Joel Embiid again, and also Robert Covington. I do think that that's slightly noteworthy. Now, for me, the player that I wanted to go on the most was going to be Tobias Harris for points, rebounds, and assists, and the data does like it, but not as much as I would have liked. 32.5, probably a little bit too thin to trust that. Paul Reed's certainly interesting at 19.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Really not the best matchup for him, and he is someone that hasn't been getting that many minutes. He is definitely a point per minute producer, though, and so it's tough to really gauge what we should do here because we don't know what minutes he's going to get. All in all, though, if he does get 25 or so minutes like he got against Utah, the over would probably easily hit. So probably a little bit too thin for me, but I don't mind it. Looking at the Kings here, Keegan Murray has been playing extremely well. If you guys want to ride with his hot hand, I don't mind it. If you look at his game log, he's gotten the over 4 of the past 5 games. And he is very much one of those players where it's just ride the hot hand. It's just, he is so hit or miss depending on how he shoots the basketball. So like if you want to roll with the over there, I don't mind it. I wouldn't talk you out of it. But with that, let's move on to the next game. We got the Hornets versus the Spurs, 3-point spread. Very interesting game. So Zach Collins is still out. Wemby, man, he went off in the last game, and he is someone that really just, we can't predict him to get more than 26 minutes. And so it leaves him a more difficult guy to bet on. Looking at the Hornets, if PJ Washington were to sit, that would create a more difficult situation because we'd probably be looking at Nick Richards and Miles Bridges to probably have better games, especially in this matchup against the Spurs, which is pretty appealing. Now, we're not getting any prop bets for Charlotte just yet because we are waiting on that news. But looking at the Spurs, again, a little bit too thin. I feel like this is just a stay away. If you wanted to go Wemby points, rebounds, good for you. I guess I don't want to chase. I don't mind it. Just it's a good matchup. He still is going to get around 24 to 26 minutes, but to me, it's a little bit too thin. So moving on into the next game here, Warriors versus Bulls, 3.5-point spread, 227, 228 for the over and under. Looking at it, guys. They're healthy. The Bulls are healthy. And so for me, that makes them more difficult. Looking at the Warriors, them being without Moody and Chris Paul, and Gary Payton is actually somewhat significant, I think, because that's going to open up some more minutes for maybe Kuminga, maybe Pods, and heck, for what it's worth, maybe even Klay Thompson. Like, if we can lock these guys in again 30 plus minutes in this game, that to me is highly appealing. And part of what we need to happen is just the Warriors to keep a freaking game close, but I think there's something there. Now, maybe Corey Joseph gets 20 minutes in this game instead. That could definitely happen, but with Moody out as well, who had been kind of Gary Payton's replacement, he'd been playing pretty well while playing like 20 plus minutes per game. And so there's definitely going to be someone that steps up. Maybe it's Andrew Wiggins instead. Like, it's tough to say who it's going to be. I think I kind of want to take a peek at the starting lineup. Yeah, that didn't change too much, but like I could easily be swayed into playing one of these. Like Kuminga at 22.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Sure, if he gets a few more minutes, should be able to crush that. Klay over points and rebounds. Sure. Now, I don't like the fact that his under 3-pointers is one that's popping up, but definitely interesting there. I would say probably Pods is the one I want to go on the most, but we're not getting any prop bets for him. For Chicago, DeMar DeRozan has been playing better, as has been Kobe White, and maybe that's just the benefit of them not having as much defensive attention with Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic playing their full allotment of minutes. Vuce does get a pretty good matchup going against the Warriors, but all in all, the prop bets that we're getting for them are a little bit too thin. And then from there, guys, the video is getting a little bit too long. I can't continue the game by game breakdown. So let me just show you guys the rest of the prop bets that we are getting. And those are later games. We don't always get the news that we want for those games as fast as we want. But just touching on it, we can see maybe a little bit of Utah, maybe Chris Dunn, points and assists, probably a little bit too thin, but we can see we're really not getting that many great prop bets for those other games. Now, Rudy Gobert sat out in the last game for the Timberwolves, and you had Karl-Anthony Towns really just go off. Gobert is expected back in this game. We're seeing points and assists potentially, or rebounds and assists potentially. If you want to roll with that, you can. Tyler Hero, 2.5 rebounds. We're just not getting that many good EV bets. So with that being said, let's go ahead and give you guys a bet slip for today for Flex Friday. So by now, you guys probably know the spiel. Like, I'm probably going to default to some fantasy score props for college basketball and NBA. I might be tweeting those out if I see any ones that are worthwhile. Again, I want you guys to do well. So I'll probably try to tweet that out or maybe put in the comment section. As it sits right now, these are what I view as the current best bets that we can use for the Flex Friday slip. And I phrased it that way because Corey Connors under 68.5 for strokes is going to be one that I have placed. And heck, if you wanted to use a golf only one, you could. But the reason why I'm not including like Corey Connors and Eric Cole in this one, even though they're two prop bets I like, is look at the tee times, guys. So tee time there and tee time there, like it's going to be locked by the time most of you guys get a chance to view this video and by the time the promotion is even available. And so that's why I'm rolling with these ones right now. So we saw Mertans, whatever, I don't know how to say her name, Elise there. The total games on Underdog is at 19, which I think it was 19.5, which 2.5 games, that's a lot. That, I mean, definitely a decent milling opportunity. Brian Harmon, I'm fine with rolling out. Again, it doesn't take much for him to make one more putt. He was close on a bunch of them. Tucker Kraft, one of the better EV bets that we are currently getting, as well as these other two for NFL. I'm perfectly fine with those. Then again, I don't mind this one. It's currently being valued as a push. Again, probably going to default to more fantasy score prop bets. I'll try to let you guys know that on Twitter if those become available. Twitter, by the way, is at 9to5 the numbers _sports. So give that a follow over there. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Please give a like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. We've been on a pretty hot stretch over the past like 2 weeks or so. Hopefully you guys have been able to take advantage of that. If you guys want access to the 9to5sports.com prize picks tools, as well as fantasy golf tools for what it's worth, it's just $10 a month. Thanks for watching. Have a good slate. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.